as we go to the insider hotline and say, bonjour, a comment ça va to Jamie McLennan, who was, did you have a, what toasty, what do they call the dogs there in Montreal? Yeah. The
Chien Chaud?
Chien Chaud? Did you have a Chien Chaud last night?
No. I'm not a big, like I've eaten them. I think I've told you the story where I got busted eating one out of my glove by Joel Quinville, all of that stuff. But when you like break down, they're like a boiled wiener in a toasted bun. Like it's not, it's.
You're singing my song.
But
delicious.
I did not eat one last night. I will say they have a media lounge meal that has been legendary for years. They've taken their foot off the gas. It was like chicken strips and fries last night. It was lean. I think what it is you get a lot of people, a lot of floaters in there. And I think I'm not sure how much they charge you. Like some of them are usually about $12 to $15. I feel like this is like north of 20, like $22 for like.
For the media meal?
Yeah, something. It's not good. Wow. Like I was disappointed in last night. I will say the cookies were good. So I did have the white chocolate macadamia nut cookie, which was solid.
Good choice.
But the meal was just average. Usually you go through like I've been in every rink, and the media meals are usually either solid, they're either top notch or they're garbage. There's nowhere in between, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of them like ration the food. Like certain buildings, there's a guy back there in a hairnet with some, oven mitts on, handing the food to you, and which is weird. You're like, we're not like there. I mean, for the most part, us media members can be pigs. So I'm sure there's guys that do 3 and 4 trips.
Oh, sure.
But like the rationing of the food really drives me nuts. I'm like, can I get another piece of chicken? They're like, no, you only get one. And I'm like, all right, are you saving it for later? Like, stop it. But in Montreal, they have a really nice buffet. It just last night I thought it was it was the Rangers' effort last night. That's
it wasn't the media meal.
The media meal put up 13 shots or whatever the hell that was.
Laviolette was coaching the chefs in the back there before that one, or what?
It was just like, I don't know. I watched Lavi, and you were talking about Jerry Gallant, and like you're looking at it at some point like it's not the coach, it's the players. And yeah, I agree with you, because I went back and watched that game because I had my eye on it. What you're doing is scoreboard watching it, because we're doing Ottawa, Montreal. The Rangers have ramifications. So now which is good for the league. It's good for the fan bases. It's awesome. And I'm like, it's 2-1. And I keep up, refreshing the app. And I'm like, okay, 2-1, 2-1 shots keep going up, 2-1, 2-1. I'm like, oh, the Flames are having a game. So I go back and I'm watching the first period. They ran him out of the building. Like the Rangers might have just put their suit on and went home. It was embarrassing.
It's really bad.
Like now, and I like the response, because I don't think the Flames put their gear on in Toronto the night before. So, it kind of, I thought the response was fantastic in a sense. Now, that being said, the Flames did generate, I think, 15 high danger chances against the Leafs. It just didn't look that good. But they, like, going back, the Rangers looked awful. Awful, and the Flames looked great last night. So,
it felt like the team, they scored 2 goals. One was a shit goal, and one went off of Lawton and in. It felt like Huberdeau could have had 5 goals last night, and it felt like they as a team had 5 scoring chances the night before in Toronto. So it is crazy. We've talked about it a lot, Noodles, and I'm not here. We don't need to pump anybody's tires necessarily, but what Huska has done with this team, I saw somebody had put together a list, and it might have been Mike showing where teams dead last in goals for, like 5-on-5 or just in scoring, where you end up. And it's like last, almost last, basically last. And Flames are 16th or whatever, middle of the pack right now with the worst scoring. The work that he is getting from his D, and it's not pretty. You look on paper, and it's Hanley and it's Bean, and there's not a.
But is it Wolf or is it Huska, Dean?
There's not a star to be found. Well, hey, last night, give the Rangers are part of it, I suppose. But that's to me, that's a team effort last night.
Yeah. They work. I just don't know that it's a masterclass in coaching so much as elite goaltending. Like you're number 2 in even strength save percentage in the league. That's a big reason why you're where you are.
Fair enough. I guess because we have talked a lot just about the effort. There's not many days that we come in here as where we have that Toronto reaction.
Yeah.
Where were they last night?
Yeah.
That's maybe on one hand over the course of this year. Rhett threw out the puppy poo out of one of those games in Florida. They were not good in Toronto, but they played that. I was looking this morning because I thought it was a back-to-back, but they played that last game of the 6-game road trip in Dallas. We had that. This is a loss.
That's a scheduled loss.
They're going to get their doors blown off.
Yeah.
They were right there. They were not were they the better team? I don't know, but they fought like dogs in that game and got a point. And then last night, second in back-to-back in the road, the whole thing, you were embarrassed the night before. It's a bit of a gut check. It's a pride check. And to me, they passed. Yeah, they got the win. Rangers were no good, but still, there's something in that room, I think, that doesn't really get you much. But there's something in that room I think a lot of teams would like to have. Teams that have that talent, like Gerard Gallant was saying, we can have all the talent in the world, but unless you're prepared to use it and care, then what good is it? Those guys care.
And work. Like I don't know how you guys felt. I thought last night if they lose, that's curtains. Like, check, please. You give a bad effort in Toronto, and if they get blown out in Montreal or in New York, I'm like, it just doesn't look good. And it was a response game. You're right, they care. And I do believe, Pinder, I do believe they can go hand in hand. You can have great coaching and have a great goaltender that masks some of the lack of talent, however you want to frame it. Because you have had elite goaltending from one guy. Vladar, I thought Vladar was solid. Like, he didn't have to be brilliant, but I look at, the big picture. I think it can be coaching. I think it can be on a given night. Somebody has a special night or somebody, and the goaltending has been fantastic for the most part. I was disappointed for Wolf in Toronto on a couple different levels. Yes, he had an off night and you get pulled and all of that. But we know you go into the Mecca, and if for some reason, if he stands on his head,
he's getting votes.
It's votes. Like, no, it's not even getting votes. He won. Like, I felt like that would, like, if he stands on his head and the Leafs are flailing and he steals that game, then people are like, well, we lost to the rookie of the year. Like, that's what it is. We lost to the guy who's going to be a star. So it was a big platform game for him. He's going to have many in his career, but that was a first opportunity in that building for him to go, here's a statement. Here's what you guys haven't been watching, because we start at 10 o'clock Eastern time most nights. And I thought in the first period, he was right there. Didn't love the first goal. I thought he overplayed a little bit, but outside of that, he had a couple in tight plays, and I was like, okay, he might have a game here. And then they tie it right at the end of the first. And I'm like, okay, like, I could see Calgary like molding one out if this guy stands on his head and it's 2-1, it's 3-1 with an empty netter. And then the wheels fell off in the second and they never got it back. But, I look at the big picture. The Flames, they did what they needed to do last night. I don't know if that'll translate to a playoff spot, but it certainly made it interesting for me because I was waiting to see what they were going to do last night.
It's interesting because you noted last night could have been curtains if they lost. St. Louis gets a big win. Vancouver knocks off Winnipeg. Utah, now it feels like they might be
slide out. Yeah.
Last call here. We're into Hail Mary territory. But 3 of the 4 teams vying for one spot. And when you throw the games in hand around, like, virtually a dead heat right now.
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting. This was not what anyone had in mind when we looked at this roster in September before the season started. And I do agree that Huska's done a great job with this group. I also think there's nothing that heals wounds and covers up injury better than goaltending. And they've had both, in my opinion.
Yeah. We've talked, to use the name, but we've talked, there's Kipper.
It's Kipper vibes.
There's Kipper vibes.
Yes.
Where the team is getting points or wins on some nights where they don't deserve it.
No business.
The only reason why.
I don't disagree. And it's not sacrilegious to use that name, even though we know the body of work has to be extended for a long time.
Yeah.
But when you have a special player, which he is, and he's still learning on the job, anything is possible. I do feel like, on given nights, he can be such a difference maker where the team is like, okay, it's a race to 2. Like, we might be able to we can get to 2. We'll see what it's like down the stretch. They've got a tough schedule. They've got some tough opponents coming up. But just like we said, you scheduled loss in Dallas, and it's like that scratch and claw, find a way. Getting Zari back was big because he had some speed and skill to it, which they're in certain areas they're lacking. I was disappointed in the Toronto game because I thought their veterans didn't play. Like I thought Kadri was, got in a homecoming. I thought he was going to be an animal, and he played great last night and was no good the night before. Like I kept looking and thinking to myself, what is going to be the separator for the Flames against the Leafs? And I was like, it's going to be Huberdeau, which Huberdeau had a great pass to find Anderson on that play. And I'm like, okay, it's going to be Kadri that does something that's unique to his skill set. And it just didn't happen. But last night, they looked dangerous. They looked like they were engaged. And we'll see. I mean, it's not an easy trek on this road trip. They've got to find a way to get points.
They'll be in Jersey tomorrow. Walk us through your thoughts on Jacob Markstrom's first full season in Jersey and what Jake Allen has given them in the 2 chair, where he seems to do his best work in this league, interestingly.
But I think Allen has transitioned into a fantastic 2. I'd say more 1B because he can give you short-term starter minutes.
Does he have McLennan vibes?
Well, no, he's better than I am. But what I was good at is, I'll give you an example. The other day, Anton Forsberg hadn't played in 33 days, so calendar days. And he came in and he played very well in Philadelphia. And I remember saying at the start of the broadcast, you don't get to wear a sign around your neck going 33 days of not live action here. Nobody cares. You got to go in the net and you got to play like you played 2 days ago. And Jake Allen, good backups, have that ability to go, doesn't matter what you're throwing at me, I'm going to give you a game. I'm going to give you what I've got. So I will say the only thing I had the ability to do is it could be 2 weeks, 2 months, and I treated that game like it was a game 7, and I was able to kind of just block out everything. Jake Allen is a better goaltender than me. He can give you 10 games as a starter. I call it short-term starter minutes now because I don't think he's an everyday starter now. But he would be a great acquisition even for, I think he's unrestricted next year for somebody, I'll give you an example. He'd be great to play with Wolf as a mentor. Veteran guy, awesome, unbelievable guy in the room, really well liked, great work ethic. Again, I'm just spitballing, but when you look at what Wolf has ahead of him, is if he's going to be the guy, and we'll call it a 58 to 62 starter guy, which is today's world, then you need somebody that can pick up 25 to 28 starts. It can't be your traditional 2. It's got to be somebody who's been a tandem, maybe a veteran guy in the league. That's why a guy like Allen comes to mind when you brought it up. And I look at New Jersey's situation. Markstrom has been up and down wildly like their team. I don't know how this is wrong wording, how they're hanging on and getting wins where you've had the Jack Hughes thing was a massive blow. You take a superstar out of your lineup, the team just feels different. Dougie Hamilton, that type of stuff. Like we had joke on our show, we call him top 50 Dougie because he was on our TSN top 50 ranked. When he's healthy, he's a hell of a player. It's just health has struggled with him recently. But they have talent. They've got speed. Sheldon Keefe is a really good coach, really good systematic coach. So you can't just show up and go, hey, you know what? New Jersey's banged up. They didn't throw in the towel. They kind of doubled down at the deadline to not, fall out of the standings. So be interesting to see. But Jake Allen has given Markstrom the nights off that he deserves. So, but there's always that little extra playing against your former team, and especially the kind of the way it went down too, like, hey, you didn't trade me at the deadline, and hey, only going to go here, that type of stuff. I don't know, all the whispers we heard.
Yeah. You asked me to waive, and then I had to think about it, and then you never traded me. I feel like that pissed him off, and rightfully so.
Let's go back. You were talking about Montreal because the Rangers game obviously did have an impact. You've got the Senators and the Habs and the Rangers. They're all kind of in that dogfight, and the 6-game win streak ends for the Sens last night. And you look at the scoreboard, and it's, oh boy, this is a lopsided affair. But it was a tight one. There's a couple empty netters there, but it was. You're on the wrong side of it, but it was one of those nights at the Bell Center where the crowd's into it. The Hudson scores a beauty. It's back and forth. The Sens had 2 leads. It was a crazy night again in Montreal.
It was. It had a playoff feel. It was a Tuesday night at the Bell Center. It felt like a nightclub.
Right.
DJ Rock. Like, I'm not lying. I was like, where am I? They had a DJ on the Jumbotron, sponsored by Monster, and he's just like, he's rolling it. I'm like, this place, and the lights are going, and the place, got silent for, it was a seesaw battle. Montreal scores right away in the game. So now all of a sudden the building's just electric. And then, Batherson comes down and ties it up. So it's like 1-1. Then it's 2-2. Then Hamonic, of all people, scores a muffin from the point. And I'm like, okay, that could be your dagger. And right away they come back and score. It's 3-3. And then Suzuki scores in the power play, I think with about 4 minutes left. And it's 4-3. And the building is just exploding. And, the 2 empty netters, it is what it is. It wasn't a 6-3 game. It was a 1-goal game that could have gone either way. I thought there was some really strong play. We termed it on the broadcast. It had some teeth. It didn't have fights, but it had some irritability, had a few scrums, had some hits, but it didn't rise to the level of like every whistle was a punch in the face contest. Both teams knew what was at stake, so I thought they were not going to head down the road of like, let's be stupid and see what the ref decides out here. So it was a good playoff game for a Tuesday night in March. And one last thing I'll add, when's the last time both those organizations played meaningful hockey on March 18th?
Against each other. It feels like it's been a decade.
But it's just been a minute. Yeah. Like, it's been a minute for both of them. I mean, Ottawa was a playoff team in 2017. Yeah, the Habs went to the final. COVID. But that was a COVID shortened season. They made it in, kind of on a weird play-in. Like, it was just so looking at it, the last time those teams were like in a playoff race, it's together down the stretch, all 7 teams, to be honest. I can't remember the last time all 7 Canadian teams were in some form of playoff fight, individually. But we're looking at, 6 of them potentially could make it, or 5 or 4, but it's pretty impressive.
Give us your thoughts on the wild card. I sort of think Ottawa's there. I mean, they're going to have to really stub their toe. They're 5 points clear of the Rangers, and they have 2 games in hand. That to me says you're in there. Maybe you fall to wild card too, but I think they're in. Can Montreal do this? It's been the overall numbers for the year aren't great, but they're just playing so much better in the second half.
So the one thing I always look at is goal differential, and they're at +6 or -16 right now. But I'm also giving them a pass is because they dug themselves not a 6-foot grave. It was about an 840-foot grave at the start of the season. So the numbers are kind of skewed where they're digging out of it. I have to be consistent, and I know Montreal fans would be disappointed with me, but I didn't think they were a playoff team this year. I thought they were going to be about an 84-point team this season. And, they're going to probably prove me wrong here by the end of the day. But I felt like they have taken a massive step, and they have some players there. Montembeault has settled in as their one. They got the young guy, Jakob Dobra, or I butchered his name, Dobish.
Yeah. He's
a nice young goaltender. The Caden Primo experiment didn't work for them, and I give him props for making the switch. This Hudson's a player. Like, there's no getting around it. Like, he's on pace for 65 points, which puts him in top 6 category all time for rookie defensemen in scoring. And there's names on there that are 5 Hall of Famers. Like, it's insane. And so he's a player. The guy who impresses me the most, and I shouldn't be surprised by this, is Nick Suzuki. Like, I think early on the projections on him were going to be, poor man's Bergeron, 50 to 60 points. And, what's this going to look like? He's a hell of a player, like really smart, really strong on the puck, works with his line mates well. We forget that Slavkovsky, who is he's Nichushkin at 20. Like, he's just a beast. He's a mammoth. And Caulfield can shoot the puck. Like, they've got something special there. And then their supporting cast, the Gallaghers, the Josh Andersons, the Armias, the guys who've kind of been there for a while, they've come on. So I still think, and I might be wrong on this because it's recency bias, the team that the Flames played last night should be the team that gets that wild card spot. But they've been so wildly inconsistent. But I heard you before you came on. You've got an all-star in every position. And not just like a scrub all-star, like, hey, he made the all-star team 1 year. Like this should be perennial, like, Vezina winner, up for a Hart type of thing for the goalie. Fox, Norris winner. Fox looks like, I don't know what's happened. He looks like he left his legs at the border or something. Like, I don't know what the hell's happened. He looks slow and weird. Like he looks uninterested. And Panarin is Panarin. I mean, he's in and out of games. He's a dangerous player. But I've always felt that the Rangers, if they could gel at the right time, they could maybe be a dangerous team to get that last spot. But I don't know. I mean, at this point, it's a coin flip, but there's 4 or 5 teams still vying for it.
How about this? Montreal dead last. I just picked a random day in November, the 13th, minus 21 goal differential. So
yeah,
to your point, you don't want to marry those stats before middle of November because this team's totally different beast.
They are. And, once in a while, I think it was the Washington Capitals last year had a negative goal.
Big time.
Outside of that, like usually you need green in that. When you're looking at NHL.com, you need green on that side to show that your team is capable of doing it. That being said, like the Rangers, they're there. The Islanders won't go away. Columbus has stubbed their toe a little bit, but
that's the other thing. Because you own the spot now, the Rangers are going to have to take it from you.
Yes.
Are they going to elevate and are you going to dip?
2 games in hand too.
Yeah, it just Montreal. There's a vibe there. My heart 2 weeks ago was with Columbus, just based on the adversity, everything. It would just be an unbelievable story. They've, Dean Evison, what he's been able to do there. That's a coach's bump, if I've ever seen one. A guy who put structure into a team that they don't have the best goaltending if you look at their numbers. So I can't figure it out. This Islander team won't go away. They were down 2 Cobb last night to Pitt, and just all of a sudden you look, it's 4-2, and they're like a moldy team. Like they just, like, I don't know how they do it nightly. I know the goalie's a star, but I just, that Dobson has kind of had a slow start and come on, and they've got players that can play, but I can't figure out who I would bet on for that last spot if I believe that Ottawa has that first one.
Yeah. I kind of feel like it's Montreal. Just
be fun.
I get it.
Would be awesome. It would be awesome. And, I see the league meetings, the GM meetings, like Bettman said today, like people are like saying, would you ever think of 1 versus 8? And he said, absolutely not. And, I don't know. We always toy it around. Like, what would be the most, like the craziest progressive thing that you could do that maybe other leagues have done? Like the NBA has done the play-in and stuff. I don't know if that's translated to success.
Because the first round sucks in the NBA. Like that's not a problem in the NHL. The best hockey you have is round 1 of the playoffs.
Right. It really is. But is it better for business to have great teams go home in the first round, or is it a way that you can spread the wealth? Like I go back, and this is how old I am, 21 teams in the league and 16 that used to make it when I first started. And now it's 32 and still 16 making it. Could you expand to something, to 2 on each side to battle it out and I don't know. Is there some sort of progressive thinking that you could get to where it adds more fan bases in, that we're talking money, we're talking revenue. And a lot of those teams that we just talked about are coin flip teams.
Yeah.
So, I could see Montreal in, I could see the Islanders in, I could see, you name it, Detroit, and they're going to, one of these, like 2 or 3 of these teams are going to miss the playoffs by 1 point.
Sure.
Maybe there should be a play-in something there that allows them one last kick at the can. And it's a couple more, or, maybe 1 more gate or 2 more gates for owners. Like to me, they have to be progressive thinking. Like, I don't think it would affect the top, would it?
Here's the thing, like the 3-point games are already doing this. It's artificial.
Yeah. You're right.
You're keeping more teams in the race. Like,
yes.
Why in the world some games you award 3 points and others 2 makes no sense to me. No other sports league worth a shake does it anywhere in the world.
Right.
I mean, soccer, they do 2 for ties to incent you to win, but this is the opposite. It's like trying to keep teams lingering around. I will say this. Why are we going to a tie break on points? Like, oh, he's got more regulation wins. How about just fucking play? How good would that be? A win in your in game rather than, back in November, that was the one more regulation.
Yeah.
Like, there's a chance for a real winner.
That's a great point, and maybe that's where the league starts.
Yeah.
That's where the league starts to see that's your trial balloon going next year. If there's a tiebreaker, those 2 teams are playing.
Yeah.
To see who's in. You're right. Not who got a regulation win October 29th.
Yes.
I think but the league has to find a way to be a little bit more progressive in certain things where it could I think it would help grow. The fan bases are all chomping at the bit for playoff hockey, for all this type of stuff. If you could find a layer there, maybe you do start at just a play-in game if you're a tiebreaker.
It'd be one of those things. It'd be like the Four Nations.
Yeah.
If you tried it and the games were great, it'd be awesome. And if it was, they lost, it was 3-game mini set, and they lost 2, it wasn't close. Well, why are we even bothering to do it? Right.
Yeah.
It would depend how it ends up going at the time.
I just don't know how it would be good if it's winning you're in. You got 2 teams.
No, but I'm talking about to Noodles' point, what if you did so the bottom 4 are going to do a little set for.
I know we mess with it now. Like, I went back, somebody asked me about my stats, and I was like, I think I had like 35 ties in my career, like ties.
Yeah.
So, because I think it was my son. That's what it was. My son's like, Daddy, how many games did you win in the NHL? And I was like, I think I won 80. And I lost like 100 and something. And he goes, well, you had ties there. And I'm like, yes, there was ties back then. Like, I believe in my career, I've had 2 0-0 ties.
Wow.
Can you imagine the entertainment that night?
Yeah.
It was, Minnesota Wild, Nashville Predators, 0-0 tie. Like, you feel bad. The fans would have needed
man. Yeah, you're walking out of the rink. It's like, what did I do tonight?
What did I just watch? Like, I just lost 2.5 hours of my life and spent, $84 on beer to watch this nonsense. But you think about it, like, the league has changed, so it does affect the record books a little bit, win losses. I've heard that argument. It's like, this goalie has more wins than that goalie, but he's been able to get overtime wins and shoot out, all of that. That
was like the Bruins Noodles, that legendary season 2 years ago. Because of course, these epic teams in the 70s and 80s, it was just a tie. You didn't have a chance to go to overtime to win. It was like the Islanders point streak versus the Oilers winning streak last year when they won so many in overtime. Like, no, they just get a tie if it's tied.
Yes,
it is tough to compare to era.
But that's where I'm saying, okay, I don't think the league is that like historic where it's like we got to protect these. These records, we got to protect the integrity of it. It's just in their mind, they're bullish on certain things. If they're talking about expanding to 84 games, make 2 of them a play-in for those teams. Like, that's where I'm saying, if you want more if you want more fan engagement, make those games important, not just another Tuesday in November because we could squeeze 2 more games in because we're looking at revenue for everybody across the board.
Yeah.
I think there's a progressive, smart business way that removes emotion from it and goes, we can add to our sport that way. I don't know.
We had to have a play-in. We have our own bracket here at the show because it's March and it's about brackets and that. So we've got the candy bracket. It was tough near the bottom. We had the Dinosaurs versus the Airheads, and then it was the Blue Whales against, I forget who it was, but it was High Chews. Yeah, the poor High Chews didn't make it, which is tough. Can we just see the bracket first? Just we can get the.
Do you have the dip where
we don't have the fun dips?
No fun dip.
What?
Fun dip did not make the tournament. Selection committee's tough. There's only 16 spots. Noodles. Your Wine Gums didn't get in.
The wine community is outraged. There's so the cola bottles are at the number 1 seed because when we were at the radio station, we did this and they were the champions. So we gave them the number 1 seed. So the Blue Whales are going to have their hands full there, but we got the Rancher.
Mike and Ike is quality. Like, I love the Fuzzy Peaches. That's a lazy pick. I don't know who the hell's choosing that. Fuzzy Peaches. Like that's a loss immediately.
So the Dinosaurs is a 2 seed? Wow.
Yeah, but Fuzzy Peaches, like it's literally, you're backed into a corner. You're just eating like peaches. Like I like variety of flavor in my candy. I have a tough time with that one. Blue whales, they're elite. Like,
yes.
Blue whales are elite.
I had to beg and plead to just get the Blue Whales into a bloody play-in for giving them no respect.
Blue whales, okay. The cola bottles, that's a sneaky one. Jolly Rancher, Swedish berries. Did Whoppers not make it?
Not chocolate. This is just candy. That may come down the road. Yeah. But a lot of focus on the 5-12 in a lot of sports where they do a bracket. That's your prime for kind of a upset. We've got Skittles at 5 and the Twizzlers sitting at 12. And we've been putting some profiles together. Yeah. It feels like you've got kind of the Skittles is very popular, multicolored. The Twizzlers might be a bit of a...
Well, there's flavored Twizzlers now. So my son loves the orange cream ones.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there's pink lemonade ones. There's stuffed Twizzlers. So they might make a comeback, but I still can't believe you don't have the fun dip.
I know. I don't even know if you can buy that now.
So my dad used to have this saying. He didn't swear that much, but he would call people a dipstick. And all I remember, I used that saying all the time with my son. I'm like, don't be a dipstick. And that's where it came from. Was we used to love those dips. Like you could eat whatever that was. It was a candy that dipped into it. I can't believe.
Supposedly it was candy. It was a stick of some sort.
Yeah.
And then you'd swirl it in the powder.
Yes. And then you would eat it, and you would have the sugar high.
Yeah. And so for the purposes of this, we just had to go with the straight classic Twizzlers because we didn't want to get too far away. This is what Skittles is up against as we look at the Twizzlers.
I think Twizzlers is universal though. Here's why I think that Skittles.
Here we go.
Go. What are we doing?
Twizzlers. There's no way to be sure, but I bet your great-grandmother loved Twizzlers. Yeah, back in the days of silent film, I'm guessing you'd hear plenty of Twizzler bags being ripped open to dig into those red twisty strands of delicious licorice. Old Gertrude, she probably still had some Twizzler chunks in her teeth as she was getting railed in the back of a Studebaker after a sock hop. Make no mistake, Twizzlers are a classic and a bona fide dark horse in the candy bracket. But we are skeptical as to how many 90-year-olds are going to be voting. Are the Twizzlers' best days behind them? Can you pick out that unmistakable strawberry scent over the old man's smell? Good luck, Twizzlers.
That's a hit piece.
We're maybe swaying the voting public a little bit, but the general consensus seems to be if you're not at a movie, when are you ever eating Twizzlers? And I don't know. I'm not a Twizzler guy. I don't mind them, but it's one of the rare things. Noodles, a guy like me, hey, you want a Twizzler? I'm probably like, I'm good. I'm all right.
Where was Gertrude getting railed, by the way?
In the back of the Studebaker.
The back of her car, the Studebaker. Was it a Studebaker?
It was Studebaker, yeah.
It was a hit piece, though.
Buick sounded funnier, but it didn't.
With the Queens at the end, like dancing it up like that. Like visually, you just made that look worse. That's the thing. You're like, Twizzlers are for old people, and that's it. But I'm telling you, you have a guy, say your friends, come over to the house, you open a bag of Twizzlers, you offer one, nobody turns it down, ever. You peel one off, they eat it. Now, and there's times where people chew off the ends, they drink it out of it, they use it as a straw, they use it. To me, I think the Twizzlers, it's a sneaky, like I don't think you're giving enough respect.
The public will have their say next week when we have you on. We'll be down to the Elite 8, I guess. We haven't really. It's the Sweet 16, but we'll be down to 8 by next week.
That is the best thing I've seen today.
There you go. Appreciate you, Noodles.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
There you go. Fun dip. Did you ever have fun dip, Pinder?
Oh yeah, even my kids have had fun dip. It's just literally powdered colored sugar.
Yeah, it's really.
And then they've got this stick that's not really that good, but you're just licking it and it's covered with sugar the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.